Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. In Mufti Menk's book, Motivational Moments, Book 1, that is, there's a quote here I'd like to analyze with you. Bismillah. Not everything can be the way you want it to be. Learn to be patient. Appreciate everything that you have and always thank the Almighty. So, not everything can be the way you want it to be. As mothers, one of the great gifts we have is to make a home feel like a home. We are hyper aware of where things are, how things look, if something's been moved. We put things back always usually in the same spot. Now, there are moms who are different, no doubt. But I'm sure some of you who are parents can relate. We are great at multitasking and delegating how the household chores should be and stuff like that. And we like it a certain way because we make the system smooth. And when things get changed, that can be really difficult. Me, myself, I like a routine, a system, an order, predictability, and functionality. And this is something that made me a really strong opener and closer as a server. When I came in, there was the first thing that I did. I wasn't scatterbrained every day doing a different thing. It was come in. I had each job is different, but I was a strong closer and I would get compliments for that, and I was put as an opener a lot. You know, you come in, fix the tables, wipe the tables down, get the linen napkins, I would get a basket, go to each table, put the napkins on every single table, then get all the knives with the trolley, and then put the knives on all the tables, then take all the forks, and then put all the forks. You see what I'm saying? A system. Or there would be times, like in another job, you have the forks and knives together, and the cups and the napkins on a pushcart trolley, and then I go to each table, and then I set up the tables before I do the other tasks like filling the sauces or setting up the bar with the condiments. Why? Because when the customers come, if they decide to sit down early before we open, everything is there and all they need is their menus and the bottled water. The cups we put on the table upside down on a linen napkin. So, each job is different. Point is I would get the tables set up first. And then in a breakfast job, I would brew the coffee, and I would have the coffee brewing while I'm getting the jams on every table. There's a system and an order, and I would do it the same way every day, and I was very punctual and systematic. And this helps to organize life. And it's interesting how when you get used to patterns and such, when that gets disrupted, how much anxiety can happen. For example, when I had my most recent injury, I washed the dishes a certain way. I put a little bit of the bleach with hot water, and then the dish soap Ajax or palm olive oil, whatever that brand is called, or Dawn. I really like Dawn's dish soap. And that's the solution I use because you're cooking meats and such. A little bit of a tablespoon of bleach sanitizes, and it's really great, and it makes your counters super clean. I mean, I don't know a mom who doesn't love to clean with bleach, but also you soak your teacups in water, bleach solution. It takes off the coffee stains, which is great. But the point is that I would have it a certain way, and I'd rinse out the sponge each time. Gotta rinse out the sponge and gotta use the sponge to squeeze the water and the bubbles, the soap, the solution on the counter, and then rinse it off. And then, the faucet, the back ridge, the back counter little area, rinse that off as well. Every single time I'm done doing a dishwashing session, keep it clean and whatnot. My husband, when I was, he would not, and I would always put the sponge upright so that it can fully drain and dry out. He was trying his best, trying to manage everything with my injury, and I noticed how when I would wobble into the kitchen to try to, force myself to eat something like some crackers or a banana, during the pain so I could take my pain pills, I would get anxiety looking over at how the kitchen wasn't how I always had it. You know, I didn't like seeing dishes in the sink. It's a very weird feeling when you're not in control anymore. And I had to learn to breathe and focus on healing and stop micromanaging and stop being neurotic and to just go lay down and breathe through my pain, because I had pain pills, but they were not fully adequate to take away the distracting, sharp needle pain throughout my neck, all the way down my arm and shoulder blade. And so that is something where I had to realize it can't be the way I want it to be all the time. And I can't overly burden people. Right? There's a balance of, okay, we gotta have the shoes lined up this way, and then if you mess it up for a couple days, alright, but we want it to look nice. Or, like for example, I want my books a certain way, but the children, they mess them up all the time, so I gave up. Won't be able to have bookshelves perfectly stacked until the children are older, because I want them to feel free to go to the bookshelf and of theirs and to get what they want. And you're like, okay, but you know, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? So you have to pick your battles, because sometimes things can go your way and you can encourage people to. Other times they can't. And I think a lot of wives struggle with this with their husband. They tell them to do something. I don't have decorative hand towels. Every hand towel, I have some nice ones that have embroidery. You could use those. You know, I got a closet of fresh linens and we change them often. Every day a new towel is placed. I keep 2 in the bathroom. When one becomes too wet, because we're always doing wudu, washing our hands, it gets, I swap out a new one. So sometimes multiple times a day hand towels are being changed. And I don't got time for, oh, don't use that one, it's only decoration. My grandma did that, and I didn't really like that as a kid. What's the point in just wasting space? But there are some women who will tell their husband, don't use the decorative towels. And it's like, you're just creating more nonsense. It's weird, because you want to have things look nice for when people come over. You have like a nice looking hand towels, because people are very judgmental. But I'd argue that if your friends are judging you based off your hand towels, you got a problem. So you see how like the wife can create drama for her husband because she wants it the way she wants it with the stupid hand towels. You're creating more animosity and more stress in the relationship and having another opportunity to nag. I find that quite odd. And men will also have their way of setting things up. Their tool area, like if they have a garage, you know, put things back where they go. You know, you want to have some respect for people's property and make sure you're not burdening them with messing up their stuff. I always put things back where they go, like with the hair dryer or brushes, hair oils. Things go back where they're supposed to go back, right? That way you always know nose hair trimmers, extra razors. There's like drawers and shelves for certain things that are organized. Vitamins on this shelf, you know. Even if there's a little bit of chaoticness to a certain spot, there's still an order. And I find that quite interesting. So there's definitely a valuable lesson to be learned with not everything can be the way you want. There's something also called a birth plan. Women will write their birth plan and it can help, but things all don't go according to plan. That's the funny part. You go in wanting a certain thing, and then it just doesn't go that way. And you're like, dang, man. Some women do get it, though. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. But you have to go in with flexibility. Flexibility is really important. And now he says here, learn to be patient. That's a lifelong struggle. Lifelong, I tell you what. For me, I try, and I'm able to be more patient when I get more sleep. But man, when you have chest pains from not sleeping, your eyes are heavy, and you don't know if you're going to be able to sleep through the night, it's terrible. Having a child who doesn't sleep is an awful burden if you don't have a way to nap during the day. Duties must be carried out, and it's a hard thing. It's hard to be patient when you are exhausted. Some people handle sleep deprivation well, but not hunger well. And some people can still be nice when they're hungry, but not when they're drowsy, sleepy. Man, it is very hard. SubhanAllah. We have to constantly remind ourselves to be patient. And then also appreciate everything that you have always and thank the Almighty. So definitely remind yourself, it can be hard because we can get so comfortable, but it's a healthy exercise, truly, to be like, I'm thankful for electricity, I'm thankful for the view, for the trees, for the birds. You could be thankful for your local bakery, your favorite coffee shop. I know I'm thankful for my favorite donut shop because it's so delicious. And I'm like, this is great, man, because I get to have this donut once a week. And it's so yummy. And perfect cup of coffee. Just great. Taking the children and watching them eat little donuts. And it's a family business, not a giant corporation. And you're just like, this is beautiful. And I hope the children look back on this when they're older and have a fond memory of going with their parents to the donut shop and having a nice cup of coffee and just being together. It's very cozy. So I'm very grateful for that. And subhanallah, as a child, I may not have much, but I was thankful for the snow. I love to play in the snow. Thankful for the trees in my grandma's backyard. Humongous trees. It was like four or five trees in the backyard. Huge. Some have died because the pests get them. Trees can get diseases. And my grandma got one vaccinated. Isn't that crazy? Trees can get injected with medicine. But some of them, they don't make it. And there's like, it's weird when a tree gets a disease and dies and it's so big and beautiful. But that is the life cycle. But I remember as a kid, my grandpa making a mini tree house. It was just a couple boards. And I could climb up there. And the bark on that tree was pretty wild. Because it's like gnarly and you put your foot in it, slides, and then there's a bunch of earwigs and bugs underneath. And you're like, ah! Scratchy as well. But man, it was pretty thick, tough tree. And the shade of those trees in the summer was wonderful, and the sound the wind makes. And I would lay on my back in the grass, staring up at the trees. And my grandma had like 20 chihuahuas at the time. And sometimes I would just lay there and the dogs would be all around me. And even though I was an only child at that time with not really any good friends around, quite neglected, I still had the dogs in the trees in the outdoor backyard. I could run around and do my own thing and be safe. And that's a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so, even in the darkest of moments, you can find something that was beautiful. When I was in the hospital with my second born, in the hospital room, it was a bigger room, and I was thankful for that. And there was a chair, like the old-fashioned kind that like rock, like sway like this, and a very smooth, not a rocking chair that goes like this, but it sways on a swivel. And I was able to put my feet up. My C-section was so painful, and I would cuddle my baby before they took her to the NICU and just be there, snuggly wuggly, quiet. My husband had taken my eldest home. Him and them went, so it was beautiful. That chair, I appreciated it. And subhanallah, there are little things that make it great. And after, there was like that just cheeseburger and the Kaiser Permanente lunch tray, and it was good, man. I don't know what it was, but it was pretty good hospital tray. And I was like, oh yeah, they got cheeseburger on the menu tonight. And I ate it. I remember the cheesecake they had too. I was like, that's money. Because, after your anesthesia comes off, you barf up a lot, you throw up a lot. And so when you can finally keep food down, it's great. And after surgery, it was like, oh, this is intense. So you're bedridden. It's so painful, but subhanAllah, that cheesecake and them cheeseburgers, I really enjoyed that, subhanAllah. And it's great. There's so much to appreciate, even in the darkest of times. And I consider it a very healthy exercise to really ponder upon those things, because it can be difficult when you're in the thick of it. When I had my most recent injury, I was thankful for having the DVD player in my room, because I could put on cartoons for my middle child and she would just sit there and cuddle with me, and having her there was like a booster of my energy. Had the TV not been there, it would have been harder for her to pay attention. There was times where we didn't have it on and she would just listen. I'd have the Quran on, put the cell phone by my pillow, and she would color. Like, she'd put her coloring book on my legs and then just doodle away, and then she started piling up her stuffies on the bed. And I was like, wow, this is nice. And sometimes I would just doze out, like on and off, because you can't really sleep because your child's there making noise and wiggling around. But it was nice just trying to get through the pain, having the heating pads on, 2 heating pads, one on the back that touches the shoulder and one on the forearm. And then just being like, ugh, because I could only lay on my back, couldn't lay on my sides. And just having her there was wonderful, even in that dark time, right? It's amazing, subhanAllah. There's so many examples in life where you can go through that, and it's great. It's truly great. When I was in the hospital for 12 days with my firstborn, we were poor, but the hospital had coupons, like a food voucher they gave you as the mom. And we had Medi-Cal at the time, and Medi-Cal covered my stay there, so I was able to stay in the hospital room, rooming in they called it. And I was like, because sometimes after 3 to 4 days they kick you out of the hospital, they discharge you. And if you don't have enough money and they don't have enough room, you can't room in. You have to leave your baby at the hospital, which is beyond evil in my opinion. But thank Allah, for each of my children I was able to stay there. For my firstborn, she was in the NICU, and I was able to room in. They got a food voucher, and I remember waddling down. You know how painful it is after you have a baby. And going into the cafeteria was on the bottom floor, so you have to, maternity is up here, and then you go down to the cafeteria. And I remember just getting some food, eating there, and then a couple times eating up in my room, and how thankful I was for the food voucher. Because my husband would cut out of work and then bring me some food from his job. And that was okay in the night, but it's a long night. You want to have some food during the day. And we had roommates at the time. We were struggling. So I'm thankful that I was able to get a food voucher, that they had that. Food access has always been something I've been very sensitive about. Always appreciating food vouchers, food programs for children, for the needy, because you never know when you're going to need it, and you're going to want to be able to eat with dignity and without judgment and scorn and ridicule and mockery. So again, although I was there in the hospital feeling depressed, I was able to have food voucher and then being able to get a slice of carrot cake. Desserts are my thing to help me keep going. You may have your thing, but ever since I was a child, I coped with sadness with something sweet. And you have to regulate that, obviously. But there's no denying when you're a little sad, a little cheesecake can make you feel better. So No, understand sometimes you gotta just let things be the way they are. You can't micromanage everything. Take care of your neuroticism. Try to be as patient as you can, even when you are depressed, sleep deprived, hungry, had some horrible news, right? And learn to show appreciation for everything you have and keep that mind set, because there are people, I think, they get out of the struggle and then they become haughty and arrogant and look down upon those who don't have what they have. And I think that poisons the heart. Something to think about. Let me know what you have to say. Please like, comment, subscribe, share, and join the blog.